After the much-trumpeted success of D-Day, the Allies were jammed up against an indoctrinated and well-trained army in countryside that favoured the defender. Two vital elements had been underappreciated: the terrain of the area beyond the beaches and the tenacity of the German defenders.
The blockage was not just hedgerows, it was impassable country.
To those back in Washington or back in London, the map isn't moving at all.
It was crucial to break out soon, but when and where?
In order to break out, you've got to be able to sustain the tempo of operation.
There is no greater density of German Panzer Divisions anywhere in the world.
It fell to the British to pin down superior forces whilst we, the Americans, manoeuvred into position for the US breakout.
This attrition suddenly opened up incredible possibilities. Allied commanders hurriedly adapted their initial plans and began the breakout to deploy their burgeoning forces. Operations Epsom, Bluecoat and Cobra blasted into the German troops.
This was an Allied operation without primacy given to one nation or another.
For 77 days after D-Day, on a 60-mile front, the Allies fought their way, hedgerow by hedgerow, hill by hill, through highly contested towns and villages, which took a bloody toll on the attacking British, American, Canadian and Polish forces.
You couldn't see a tank if it was dug in, you couldn't see a mortar.
It really is a huge battlefield.
The numbers and logistics involved defy the imagination.
Attritional rate were reaching figures only previously found in the First World War.
Now the trenches have become hedgerows.
And you just can't get over the top of it.
The Americans haven't prepared for this kind of battle.
More than the dead on Omaha every day. The Hawker Typhoon.
The brutal use of Allied air power and artillery pulverized the German forces and French civilians alike, producing gruesome scenes of carnage and destruction.
32,000 French people were killed being liberated.
The Allies now were angels of death and destruction.
History brings story, and stories make history.
We follow these events with people whose mission it is to make sure that we never forget the huge numbers of Allied troops and civilians who were sacrificed on the bloody altar of liberation for the rest of Europe.
His P-47 crashed into the Marion family home. What was left of the Marion family remained here in the rubble.
They had been fighting for 43 days. Their heavy artillery went to work.
There weren't any Germans here.
And the aircraft dropped their bombs again.
General Leslie McNair
Took a direct hit from American Air Force bombs.
During the Battle of the Hedgerows, the morale of the troops will low down a lot.
It's because they're fighting for the guy beside them, which is in fact what most of the Germans are doing as well.
More or less a movie museum.
It's one of the oldest houses in Mortain.
This is the night of August 6th. There was a bomb shelter in the basement of that home.
They were here and tried to communicate with the soldiers over the hill.
It's Hill 314. The numbers of tanks lost on that day was horrendous. Here at St. James, 4,500 American soldiers are buried, up to 52,000 British and Canadian casualties. The Poles put up one of the most heroic defensive actions. Here are buried 12,000 German.
Their massive losses throughout the campaign and the slaughter at the Falaise Gap effectively ended the German occupation in northern France.
Paris was next.
Once again, our team travel in the footsteps of heroes through the Allied breakout, from the D-Day beaches across the Normandy battlefields that changed the tide of the war in Europe.
This is the one, this is the road, and this is the bridge.
This is Dickie's Bridge. So come with us and explore this decisive battlefield. The fight for liberation was not over on D-Day. For the Allies in Normandy, it had only just begun.